Joe knows taxes.
Joe knows the market.
Joe knows Social Security.
Joe knows income planning.
Joe knows pickleball? No.
This is Joe Knows Retirement.
Welcome everyone to the episode today of Joe Knows Retirement. We are going to be talking about the question of, is your financial advisor doing a good job for you? And we're going to go through this Kiplinger article that I wrote. It got featured in Kiplinger on this topic to help you decide of if your financial advisor is doing what's right for you. And if not, maybe time to go get a second opinion from someone who is actually doing some of the things that they may not be doing. The big reason why I wrote this article specifically is because we do a lot of community work. We do a lot of workshops. We do a lot of education in the community. And what we typically find is advisors aren't always doing their job. We get a lot of people that come to us and they say, oh, wow, my advisors never talked about this. The number one reason why someone leaves their advisor is because of communication. And so we feel that a lot of these things we're going to talk about here in the 10 questions that we're going to go through, that a lot of them are just miscommunication or just being lazy, simply put. So we're going to go through this. You're going to know by the end of this podcast if your advisor is doing a good job or not. And if so, great job. There's some really good advisors out there. So we want to make sure that those people are very highlighted, but we also want to make sure those that are not doing the work that they need to, make sure that you get to someone who is going to help you. Because if they're not getting the job done, no matter how great they are, no matter how good of a person they are, this is your retirement savings, and it's extremely important to make sure that it can last for as long as you do. So that's our goal here. And so the first question to get into things is, one, are they a fiduciary? And I've done another one of these episodes on the podcast before of what to look for when looking for an advisor. So if that is you, if you don't have an advisor yet, that would be a better podcast for you to listen to. This one will still be fruitful because some of the ones can still apply to if you're looking for one. But I had the same question on that checklist as well for this one, which is for those who have an advisor already. So first one is, are you a fiduciary? And understand, not every advisor is a fiduciary. Remember that. Some are just insurance salespeople who title themselves as financial planner or financial advisor, which really irks me. It really bothers me because they're not truly doing their job, and they're out there acting like they're someone that they're not. And so that can be bothersome if they don't do comprehensive retirement planner. And so that's a big one there. There's actually some legislation in place right now, that's looking to really more so that financial planner title, looking to designate of who actually can hold that title. And that would mean that someone who's not a fiduciary, someone who's only an insurance salesperson, could not hold themselves out as a financial planner. I think that would be really big for our industry. I think that would be really good for the end person who is looking for financial assistance. So thought that was a big one there, is, are they a fiduciary, which simply means, are they acting in your best interest? And so just understand that not everyone has to do that. So that's extremely important to look for if you ask me. The next question you want to ask your current advisor, and by the way, if they don't say they are a fiduciary or they do not write it down, they're not a fiduciary. Make sure you look otherwise, is my recommendation there. The next question is, do they review your tax return annually? The amount of people we get to come see us to say, wait, tax planning, our advisors never talked about that. Retirement taxes could be your biggest expense throughout your retirement, in my opinion. I believe so strongly in this, is why I wrote a book called I Hate Taxes, because I feel like if you can control the amount of taxes you pay in your retirement by having a plan, then you're going to set yourself up for success in retirement and allow you to spend more money, allow you to give more money, allow you to have more peace of mind throughout your retirement, knowing that you're not going to have Uncle Sam take more than he needs to from that nest egg you've accumulated all of these years. So that's something that we would do personally with our clients every year, is review their tax return and see what opportunities they have for that year ahead. Right? We don't want to be reactive. We want to be proactive and see what savings, what opportunities are ahead. Some of these savings are charitable strategies, Roth conversions, which has been very popular right now with tax rates on sale. We get a lot of people that come to see us to look to get a Roth conversion plan that's optimal for their situation, so that they can pay lower Social Security taxes in the future. They can pay lower Medicare premiums in the future. They can pay lower capital gains in the future. They can have a lower tax situation moving forward. Tax loss harvesting, another example that your advisor should be doing all those different things for you to make sure that you're in the best place possible. And on the next question, I already kind of mentioned it, but have they been doing Roth conversions for you would be the next question. That's question 3 on our list here. And that is simply, do you have money in Roth or not? If you don't have money in Roth, I'm not telling you you're wrong or in a bad place. I don't know your specific situation, but I would tell you that most of our clients have something in Roth right now. Some of them have a larger amount, others have just a little bit. But for most people, it's good to have what we call a diversification when it comes to your assets with your investments. Think about it. I always ask the question, do you have all of your money in Bitcoin? Of course not. Your investments are diversified. You have all your eggs in different baskets, and that's great. But the question is, are your taxes diversified? Are your investment taxes diversified? Do you have all your money in tax deferred, which means your 401k, your IRA, or do you have all of your money in Roth accounts, Roth 401k, Roth IRA? Typically what we see, most people have all their money in tax deferred. They've been saving in that all their life, and they have very little in their Roth, if anything at all. And so in my mind, that is not diversification. That is an imbalance that is not going to lead to good things. So what we're trying to educate people on is how do we have more of a balance so that we can have control out of which bucket to pull out from in retirement. Maybe we take out from the tax deferred when tax rates are lower, like today. Or maybe we'll take out from the Roth when tax rates are higher, like we're expecting in the future. And so to have that control, if you need to go take out $50,000, you now own and have control of what tax rate you're going to have to pay. You're not saying, Uncle Sam, I've got to take out $50,000 for my tax deferred investment. You tell me what tax rate to pay, because we don't know what tax rates are going to be, and everyone expects to be higher. So if that's the case, you have no control. And that's, again, why I wrote that book. Part of that subtitle of that book was Lower Your Taxes and Own Your Retirement. We do that by having a plan and by being proactive by getting started today. So if they haven't done any Roth conversions for you, especially over the last 5 years, then that's going to be a red flag in my mind. Why do I say the last 5 years? Because that's when the Trump's tax cuts started. In 2017, Taxes Cuts and Jobs Act was enacted, which lowered taxes from 2017 to 2026. So during this period of time, tax rates have been on sale, and they've been lower than pretty much any time in history. And so that's been a great moment to move some of these tax deferred dollars to tax free, pay your taxes now at a lower rate before later when they're higher. I mean, I think of it, you go to, like I'm from Carroll, Ohio, we're a farming community, and my best friend's a farmer down there. And he has an apple orchard. And so I asked him, would you rather pay tax on the seed or the harvest that you reap? What do you think he's going to say? He's obviously going to say the seed because it's much less. Well, that's the same concept of a Roth conversion, of paying your taxes now versus later when your account's bigger, but also now why tax rates are lower versus higher tax rates in the future. So again, you still got a couple more years to take advantage of that, with 2026 being that deadline before taxes rates go up. They could go up sooner, but that's when they're set to go up unless legislation changes. And so that's something you want to make sure you've got in your pocket there, of a plan of how you're going to combat potentially higher taxes moving forward. And a Roth conversion is something we do with a lot of our clients. We've been doing it for the last 5 years. Roth conversions were allowed without any limits since 2010. So again, if you haven't done anything since then, that could be a red flag that maybe your advisor's not doing the best work, or maybe they just don't do investment planning or tax planning. Maybe they just do investment planning. So those are things that you would want to look out for. So let's move on to the next question here. Question 4 is, have they discussed how to avoid the Social Security tax torpedo? This one's a fun one. This is one that most people don't know about. And if you don't know about this, I would highly encourage you to get educated on it, or at least find someone who can help you plan for it, because it can be very significant. So the idea of the Social Security tax torpedo is first understanding that Social Security is not taxable to everyone when you receive that check in retirement. For example, if you get $3,000 a month from your Social Security check, you used to, before 1980s, you were able to keep all that without paying a dime to Uncle Sam in tax. Today, Uncle Sam is going to get his portion depending on what your income is. And so if you are low income, you may not have to pay any taxes on your Social Security. And I always ask people, does that mean you have to be poor? And the answer is yes, or you could be smart. And I'll share a client example. So we have a client, $1 million, and they pay no Social Security tax every year ongoing. And a lot of our clients are in that type of position where they've done great planning. We've been able to guide them along. And so when they get to retirement, they're now taking out investments from Roth where they don't pay taxes. They're now making sure they only take enough out from their tax deferred to fill up the standard deduction. So it's all tax free. And then their Social Security is ultimately going to be tax free as well, because we're able to put them in a lower income situation. And so that's the idea of the tax torpedo is, if you can keep your income low enough, you could keep Social Security tax free. The problem, though, is if you don't keep your income lower, and as soon as your income starts rising higher and higher and higher, you're going to force your Social Security to be majority of it taxable. up to 85% of your Social Security could be taxable as income. So if you have $10,000 Social Security benefit, for easy numbers, $850 of that will be counted as income. And if that's the case, you just pay taxes on something that you may not have had to if you would have just planned the right way. And so what we typically see, though, is when you are reaching this higher point of Social Security becoming taxable, if you take out an additional $10,000 during this segment, you could force yourself to pay a 40 to 50% total tax on that withdrawal. And you're probably wondering, what do you mean? I'm only in a 12 or 22% bracket. What do you mean I got to pay 40 to 50%? Well, because if you did not take out that $10,000, you would not have forced your Social Security to be as taxable, which would have drove your total taxes down. But because you have to take out this $10,000, now you're forcing yourself not only into a higher tax bracket, but you're also forcing the rest of your Social Security to become taxable, and that's where you get that 40 to 50% rate only on that segment. But still, it's a big decision to take out an extra $10,000 if you're only going to get half of it. And so we really need to understand, one, where you sit there, but more importantly, maybe you're not at that point. We need to start planning now so when that point comes, you can avoid that torpedo so you're not seeing half of your wealth go to Uncle Sam. And so if your advisor's never brought up that concept or he's not looking at, different strategies to lower your income in retirement, again, another red flag that, hey, you may want to look to get a second opinion. So that's a big one. It's a more advanced question. So make sure you really know what you're asking there. But it's a big concept and it's going to allow you to have a really, really keyed in and maximized plan in retirement by planning for that. So the next question we have here is if you give to charities. So the question goes, if you give to charities, have they put together a donor advised fund for you or started qualified charitable distributions? So we see so many people that are giving money, which is awesome. Like, we encourage that. That's great. But they're not getting any tax benefits of it. Now, you shouldn't just give to get tax benefits. Let's put that first and foremost. But if you are giving and you're not getting tax benefits, that's just not right. You need to make sure you're maximizing your giving and making sure, because here's at the end of the day, if you're really passionate about giving, if you can get tax benefits in addition to it, well, give more. Now you can give all that tax savings, because here's at the end of the day, would you rather your charities get that money or would you rather the government get your money? I don't know about you. I'll share my opinion. I just don't know if the government's the best steward of all of our tax-paying dollars. So in my mind, I'd rather give those charities the money myself than let the IRS decide how they want to spend that money. And so if that's you, paying attention to this question and making sure you've got these types of strategies in place are extremely important. First, let's start off with a qualified charitable distribution. If you're 70 and a half or older, then this is something you can actually start doing. And it's probably the most prominent way our clients are giving if they're that age or older. So not all of our clients are that age or older. Many are younger, between the ages of about 60 to 70. But this is something that we're planning for when they get to that point of 70 and a half so that they can give their IRA dollars straight to the charity, not have to pay any taxes. We also talked about Roth conversions earlier. This would be a reason not to Roth convert as much money over. Again, when we do Roth conversions, we're not looking to put everything into Roth. We want to do little amounts over time to take advantage of the lower tax brackets that we're expecting. But it's good to still have some money there to take up the standard deduction like we talked about, but also for this strategy here to make sure we can give the money to the charity. So starting at 70 and a half, you can start doing that. And then once you're 73 or 75 for your RMDs, the QCD can actually count as part of your RMD, so now you don't have to take as much out from your investments in retirement when the government forces you to do that, right? Required minimum distributions, and so we can be in a better spot with all of that. So that's if you're 70 and a half or older. If you're 70 and a half or younger, the strategy we typically look at is a donor advised fund. This is something I personally do. I love this concept. It's a great strategy for those who are charitable minded. And the idea of this is really think of it as bunching your charitable deductions into 1 year that you may give for 5 years, let's say. So something I do is I have a stock portfolio account, just a non-qualified investment, and I just go in there and pick some stocks that I expect are going to grow over time, and then I just let them sit there. And then every year I go into that portfolio and I take out the stocks with the most gains and I move it into my donor advised fund, and then I sell it off in my donor advised fund. And doing so, all of that growth that I saw in that investment, I don't have to pay any taxes on it because it's sold in my donor advised fund. The other great benefit here is that I get a tax deduction all in 1 year versus if I were to give that stock, for example, over 5 years, I may never be able to get above the standard deduction. But because I give everything that I'm going to give over the next 2 or 3 years in 1 year, I get to take advantage of an itemized deduction this year And then the next 2 years, for example, I'm going to just take advantage of the standard deduction, and I'm not going to show the IRS I'm giving anything the next 2 years, because I'm just going to continue to give from my donor advised fund over the next 3 years. So more of an advanced strategy, but if you've got appreciated stock or you've got appreciated properties, donor advised fund can be a really good opportunity to look at. If you've got an extra amount in your savings, or if you're really just giving a more significant amount to charities. If you're giving $5,000 to $10,000 or $20,000 or more each year, we would start to look at a donor advised fund for you, because it can really allow you to get more tax savings and tax benefits as you're giving. And it's really not that difficult to set up. You just have to set up the fund, and then you just have to be able to understand to give from that ongoing and send to your charity, which is really easy to do. So the only negative, I guess, of a donor advised fund is it's an irrevocable gift to that fund. So you have to give it to a charity once it's in. The good thing is you can choose which charities it go to, so you're not stuck with one. The other thing I like about it is I don't have to give all of my money to a charity in 1 year. I could give it to them over 5 years, right? So I want to make sure they're managing the funds correctly. Then that could be a way to really allow that to happen. So that would be number 5. It's just charitable planning. If your advisor hasn't brought up those concepts and those make sense for you, then hey, you may want to look to get a second opinion. The 6th question is, are you being charged for internal expense fees in addition to a management fee? So this one's more specific, but we see a lot of people who work with us who, before they came over, they had a management fee they were paying an advisor. That's fine. That's what you pay them to do their work, right? Everyone's got to get paid if they're doing good work. And then they would also be paying an internal expense, which the advisor may not necessarily get paid on that at all, or very little if so. And with that, it would be 1% or so, and that's just paying another investment manager to manage that. So you're paying 2 people to manage your investments may not always be the best thing, right? So what we do with our clients, we charge a management fee, and then we use stocks and ETFs, and then our internal team, we're the ones managing that investment for our clients to make sure that we don't have any additional costs to still get that investment, that professional investment management that everyone's looking for. So my point is you can get the service without paying an excessive price is ultimately the idea. So if you're having a mutual fund and a management fee, my mind says that you may be overpaying, and that may not necessarily be worth it. It's just not what we believe in here at Peak Retirement. We believe that we want to lower our clients' all-in fees, and we want to make sure that we've got more of an efficient portfolio with less fees coming out of it is ultimately the goal. The next question you could ask is, have they developed an income plan for your retirement that protects a portion of your portfolio from losses in down market? We see a lot of people come to us who are taking on way too much risk as they enter retirement. They may be invested still like they're 30 years old because they haven't made the adjustments to have a retirement plan. They still have the investment plan, not a retirement plan. And so our encouragement to most people is, hey, instead of just being in traditional stocks and bonds like everyone is there a better way to do so? And is there a safer, more secure way to do so is ultimately the idea. And so most people just come in with a 60-40 stocks to bond splits, which is great. But in 2020, bonds were down about 15%, stocks were down about 20%. How are you feeling during that point if you have to start taking money out if you're retired? And so that's what we want to try to make sure we're avoiding those types of situations. And so what we would typically advise people of is we need a portion of our money protected. We need something that's principal protected, something that's not going to lose money in a down market to make sure we have a secure place to pull out funds if we need it in the short-term time of our plan. Now, is the market a great thing long-term? Absolutely. That's how we're expected to get more growth with our portfolio over time. That's what we position with a lot of our clients, is a portion of their money in protection, a portion of their money in growth, to make sure that we are allocating for the right time in their retirement, right? A retirement is going to be 20 to 30 years, so we need to plan appropriately. We do need enough growth for that, but we also need money right away. And so if we have 2 losses in retirement, a market loss and a withdrawal from us having to take out money, that's 2 losses. And do we have enough time to make that up is ultimately the question that we're looking at there. And so if you're very conservative, like most of our clients are in or near retirement, and they've took all their risks. They've saved enough money. They don't need more money. They just need a better plan. And so if that's you, maybe we don't need a 50% rate of return anymore. Maybe we just need a slow and steady, consistent return over time and just not take any big risks. So that would be something you want to look at. Again, most advisors, they're just looking at stocks and bonds. It's just the easiest way to do it, and it's kind of the old, way of doing it. So you may want to get a second opinion if that's still you today. All right, number 8. Few more questions here. In the past year, have they brought a new opportunity to your attention? And I've got a very prime example. Did they tell you about I-bonds in 2022 when they were at a 9.62% guaranteed interest rate? So something we do with our clients is every quarter we try to always reach out with some sort of actual tangible value for each of our clients to move the needle. And we want to make sure that we can continually add value, right? Again, most people do have advisors that never reach out to them. They never meet with them every year. They never contact them out throughout the year. It's very reactive. They only meet with them if they ask. And so that would be one red flag, I would say. But you also want someone who's actually actively showing you different ideas. So something we did in 2022 with our clients, obviously I-bonds were an awesome idea. You could get almost 10% return on that, and you couldn't find that anywhere else in the marketplace. And so we really encourage our clients to do that. We built how-to instructions of how to do it. We were on phones to show them how to do it. And so it's just important to really just have your eyes open on what's out there, right? Not only from an investment standpoint, but also what about tax rules and things like that are ever changing, making sure you feel confident that your advisor is going to be bringing you new ideas and new opportunities and being innovative and on a cutting edge is extremely, extremely important in my mind. The last two questions here. One is, how often do you meet? I just talked about this one. Are investment returns the main topic of conversation, or is your advisor bringing additional value and proactive solutions to the table? So we'd recommend that you meet with your advisor at least once a year and sometimes more if needed, especially if big life events are happening. But you may want to make sure you're hearing from them just more than once a year too, is ultimately what I would recommend. And if they're just talking about investment returns, it's pretty easy to understand. You just have someone who's managing investments, which is important. It's good, but you could find someone to do the same thing, but do much more service is obviously the idea. And so we follow a 5-pillar approach here. Investment planning is one of those pillars, but there's other pillars like tax planning and healthcare planning and estate planning and income planning that all make that comprehensive retirement plan work. They may not necessarily mean things that you need when you're 30 years old, but when you're 55, 60, 65, those are the things you need in place. And so we feel that is the standard of retirement planning. And so you just want to make sure that they're talking about more than just investments. Do you have an estate plan in place? What is your tax plan for that year? Are they reviewing your tax plan every year? A tax plan is not a set it and you let it go plan. You got to change it ongoing. So that would be what I would advise for that one. Question 10, does your advisor work with a team, or is your retirement plan in the hands of only one person? Nothing against having just one person manage your funds. I mean, they could be doing a terrific job, but where it starts to become a problem is if they have 1,000 clients, over 100 clients in my mind. They're trying to run a business. They're trying to do the paperwork. They're trying to greet the clients. They're trying to take the phone calls. They're trying to meet all the clients. They're trying to enjoy their family time. They're trying to go on vacations. How can one person do all of this stuff? And it was an epiphany for me early on in my career, is I realized if I want to build a rock solid and awesome financial planning firm, it cannot just be me. It's got to be much bigger than myself. And so I feel like that's what we've built here at Peak Retirement is we've got something that's just bigger than one person. We've got 6 advisors currently and still growing of all these different minds and expertise and specialties in different areas playing together, brainstorming together, building plans together. And with all of that becomes a lot more resources, comes a lot more advice that I feel we can give our clients, a lot more time that we can give our clients, a lot more people we can serve too as well. And so with that, if it's just one advisor, what happens if they pass away? What are they going to do, right? There's just all these concerns. And so not to say it's bad, there's some really good solo shops out there. I'm just wondering if you really want your retirement to be in the hands of one person. When I started, I'm very thankful for those that did just trust me in that one person shop. But looking back, there's a reason I changed, and there's a reason why I'm doing it another way, because I didn't feel like that was necessarily best. So you've got to do what you feel most comfortable with. But in my mind, I want to make sure I'm working with a team versus an individual, so you have more areas of expertise, right? That 5-pillar approach is really hard for one person to be doing the estate plans, for one person to be doing the tax plans, the investment planning, the income, the health. Like, there's so many things that go into it. You need a Medicare specialist. You need an attorney, estate planning attorney. You need a CPA. There's all these things. You want to work with a team who can do that for you. So those are the 10 questions that I would mostly advise you to look at if you have a current advisor. If you have a current advisor and you're looking to see, I think some of these questions, maybe they're not adding up, feel free to schedule a time if you think it makes sense to get on our calendar, and we can kind of walk you through where you're at, what we see, what opportunities you have. And that's what we do in that discovery session. And we don't charge for that discovery session because we want to make sure people can have a step forward from all the education we do to make sure they're in the best spot possible. There's simply no pressure whenever anyone meets with us. We're going to make sure that we can allow them to be in a better place than when they came in. And if it makes sense for us to talk further, we certainly can. If you are looking for specific help and we feel we can add value, we can always have that conversation. So wanted to fill you in on that for today's episode of Joe Knows Retirement. Again, make sure you've got the right retirement planner to make sure that your nest egg that you've accumulated over these last 30, 40 years is in good hands to make sure you can live that retirement that you've dreamed of. Have a great day.
Since we do not know your specific situation, none of this information can serve as tax, legal, insurance, or financial advice and may be outdated or inaccurate. The information comes from sources believed to be reliable but cannot be guaranteed. This content is prepared for educational purposes only. If you need advice, please contact a qualified CPA, attorney, insurance agent, financial advisor, or the appropriate professional for the subject you would like help with. Peak Retirement Planning, Inc. is an Ohio-based registered investment advisor and able to offer advisory services in Ohio and in other states where registered or exempt from registration.